Okay, I think, Colin, you probably have some wording to read out, do you, on that? Because I don't have the wording. You don't read the wording out for live streaming on this? Okay, the fact that this meeting is being recorded, so on a live stream. The first item is, I believe, I can't see the minutes, obviously, of the meeting because I'm on the Zoom and I can't see both on my computer. So, Colin, could we have apologies, please?
Well, the first item on the agenda is election of chair. So if you could just ask for just ask for nominations.
Sorry, yes, everybody, could I have a nomination, please, to chair the meeting for tonight?
Councillor Brown has his hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to propose Councillor John Burns as chair of this committee.
Okay, I'll second that. That's fine.
Is Councillor Burns willing to take the reins?
Yeah, by all means. Thank you.
So we just need a vote on that. It's been proposed and seconded. Councillor Mason's not a member of this committee at the moment.
Yeah, sorry, John. Yeah.
But you can vote for yourselves. But yeah, that's carried because obviously you're proposed and seconded.
I could vote for myself, but I was waiting to see what everybody else does.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you all for your support. Appreciate that. Thank you, Margaret. Right, item 2 then, election of vice chair for this working party, community events working party. Councillor Brown, can I?
I'd like to propose Councillor Marks, if she's willing to do it.
Okay, can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Lucarini. Wait for it, Joe. Councillor Marks, are you happy to accept that? Right, yeah, you don't have to say, just nod, it's fine. Thank you. All right. Any other nominations? No, there's nobody else to nominate. So, all those in favour, please show. Lovely, carried. Thank you very much. All right, item 3, apologies for absence. Colin.
We have apologies from Councillor Davison and Councillor Hanlon.
Lovely, thank you very much. Item 4, which is declarations of interest. Members declare any interest they may have on the items on the agenda and agree any dispensations to stay. Anything? No, I can't see anything. Thank you very much. Item 5, which excuse me, is co-option.
Councillor Burns, I'm awfully sorry, but when I'm on the Zoom meeting, I can't see the papers, and that because I hadn't got them printed off. That presents a slight problem because I can't see the agenda papers. Is there any way when we're asking those sort of questions that they could be on the screen? That would just be a little bit helpful. Is that possible, please?
Colin, can you oblige? Well, I've got it available for you. Okay, there you go. So up to item number 5. You see that all right, Councillor Marks? Yeah. Okay, as it says there, to consider an invitation to members of, excuse my voice go, to members of the public with an interest in assisting the organisation of community events. Bit like the civic one, I think we probably need to take this on a case-by-case basis, as we, as my personal view is, look at the event and decide if there's members of the public who are willing to help and whether we want to accept them onto the working party. Is that all right, Colin?
Chair, there was Wendy from Starburgers attended full council meeting and expressed an interest in attending. I can extend an invitation to her and see if she wishes to join.
Yeah, but is that on a specific subject? I know she attended the meeting, but obviously.
I don't know. I mean, she expressed an interest in joining the committee. Whether she would only be interested in attending for parts talking about specific meetings would be down to her. But obviously, the invitation is to join all the meeting, and obviously, the more the merrier as far as people are concerned.
Yeah. Any thoughts by anybody?
So I'd just like to introduce myself at this point. My name's Jessica. I don't have my video on because it's live streamed. But I am from a company called Pre-Hospital Emergency Services, and we provide medical cover to various events throughout the whole of the UK. We've got a nightclub that we provide medical cover for in Cambridge.
Right.
So we was just wondering if we would be able to provide our service to you guys as a council.
Okay, you like any supplier for our services, it has to go through to the town council themselves. We as a committee don't make that decision, or that working party. So,
Okay.
Colin, would it be best just to email you?
Yes. Jessica, were you able to get hold of the agenda?
Yes.
All right. So on there's a email address. If you send your details through, then I'll actually pass them to Gary, who's on the call, and you can arrange with him to make a pitch for that work. That's absolutely fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. You're more than welcome to stay, obviously, if you want to.
Will do. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Right. Sorry, going back to the co-option and members of the public, any thought? I don't have a problem, you know, anybody as long as they're, personally, as long as they're willing to help out, like I think we all do.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want me to extend an invitation to Wendy to see if she wants to join?
Yeah, but that's my personal view. Others think, Councillor Brown, Lucarini, Marks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think she was very enthusiastic, and I think it'll be good to have some members of the public on, and also for people to come along and be more involved with the council and see what we do, because I think there are misunderstandings about where we fit. So I think anybody who wants to come along, and as long as they're positive, proactive, and they don't have a hidden agenda, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Councillor Lucarini Brown, you happy with that? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods there. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 6, which is to note this working party has no delegated authority and only make recommendations to the Leisure and Community Committee, but urgent actions could be taken under delegated authority already held by the town clerk. So that's just for noting. I hope that's okay with you. Can't see any shakes of heads or anything. Right, fine. Item 6.2, which is to receive a briefing from the clerk on the community event planning process. Over to you, Colin. If you're gonna, is that? I assume that's you, is it? Yeah.
Yep, it is. Thank you, Chair. So basically, you have officers who organise. Sorry, there's somebody who needs a switch. That's it. Thank you. There's officers whose job it is to make sure that we organise our meetings, so we comply with all the health and safety regulations. It does all the actual running around. So what we are hoping for from this committee is that we get the democratic oversight of what we're up to, and also the steers in the first place as to how elected members want to see events being organised, what events they want us to organise, what events they don't want us to organise, and if there's decisions that have to be made over affordability about which events should be trimmed down. So looking at the budgets for events and what can be done to make the events bigger and better or smaller and better, whether that makes them more expensive or less expensive. Then all those things are what this meeting will decide. But as Chair mentioned earlier in talking to Jess, it's there are certain things which won't be down to this committee to need to do. You don't need to get into the minutiae of detail of how events are actually organised. That'll all be taken care by the officers you employ to carry out those duties. But where we need policy decisions, that's where we'll come back to you and asking for guidance on what needs to be organised, etc. So slight difference, I suppose, from the civic event working party, where in theory it's exactly the same, except that in practice, for some of the civic events, for the Armed Forces Day and Remembrance Sunday, members choose to actually have an absolute hands-on role in organising, in taking lead in organising those events. But that's a matter of choice. It's not a matter of requirement. So it doesn't exist here. But there could be an event that you're particularly interested in getting involved in, and you might get more involved in that way. You're muted at the moment, Chair.
I thought I'd shut up while you were talking, Si. Yeah, I agree totally. And obviously, as I think we all do, we all volunteer anyway to help out at specific events as and when we can. So that's great. Okay, any questions on that at all from anybody? Tony's obviously, you happy with that, Tony? Yeah. Item 6.3 then, to agree the draft terms of reference for the working party, which to be recommended to Leisure and Community. And I'm hoping, Colin, you have a good. You are good. Thank you. So if you were on the civic meeting, very similar. Is there anything? I don't think there's anything below 5, is there, Connie? Apart from that bit, yeah. Any thoughts on those? I think they're pretty simple and cover most things. And as Colin just said, lets the officers get on with most things, and we just oversee things and help out where we can. Any thoughts from anyone? I'm personally quite happy with them, but yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, go, Joe.
Yeah. One of the reasons I've joined the meeting tonight is to kind of just question the purpose behind any of our events in terms of what we do as a whole. Because obviously all of these are organised by Haverhill Town Council. And for me, one of the things I'm interested in is the element of community and community engagement, and what role the Town Council potentially could have in being a facilitator for events, so that we can have maybe some low-key events organised by local groups, kind of supported by the Town Council, but not necessarily fully organised or run by the Town Council. So, for example, I'm just trying to think of one, maybe a day of Abbeycroft leisure, perhaps, if they wanted to, skipping ropes and celebrating World Heart Day, or in terms of promoting healthy living. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be an event that the Haverhill Town Council would run, but potentially it would get people in the high street doing fun activity, promoting positive health. And I think the question I'm trying to get to is, what role can the Town Council have in being a facilitator, or maybe an initiator of being a facilitator, of inviting community groups to take part in or organise events that would be worthwhile, would support community cohesion, and also provide added value, and not necessarily more work or expense to the Town Council in the running of the events. Do you see what I'm trying to get?
Yeah. I think a classic example of that now, perhaps not so much in previous years prior to last year, are things like the Chalkstone Fun Day. I don't know whether Colin and others would agree with me, but I mean, that is now mainly run by the Chalkstone Community Centre. we just facilitate it in terms we might provide a couple of gazebos, we'll advertise it, but it's primarily run by them now. And to a certain extent, maybe less so a little bit to the Clements one. I mean, ideally, I would like to see them on all the estates if we had space to put them somewhere. But yeah, you got any thoughts on that, Colin?
I think you summed it up well. I think I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Mason. The whole point of events is it's not just events for events' sake. It has to have some purpose to it, and community cohesion is really important. So, in the Chalkston Fun Day, we went to the Chalkston Community Centre and said that we want to facilitate them hosting an event, which is exactly what we did. They did the vast majority of booking all the people. We made sure that the gazebos were there for them and the sound system, and we did the running track. We got that painted up, but other people then put on the actual activities, etc. So there was a whole load of different people from within the community. We tried the same thing on the Clements. The Clements doesn't have quite the same maturity of residence sort of action going on. So there's a little bit there. There's a kernel beginning to form around the local voice activity that Councillors Smith are involved in. And we worked with some members of the community. So they did have a stall. Certain members of the community were doing things. But hopefully we can build on that so that actually we leave a legacy of people willing to organise things. We actually built the Clements one on the back of what they did for organising a street party for the Platinum Jubilee. So yes, as Councillor Burns said, it would be great to be able to do that elsewhere. So I think it's an interesting challenge that Councillor Mason puts when you think about some of the other events we do, about what's the capacity for more people to get involved. I guess the 2021 Christmas event in the High Street, we had a lot of business involvement. It would be good to have seen that continue. It might be possible, but it would be great to see more of that. The Halloween trail, Haverhill in the park, etc. I think we're probably not ticking the community engagement box so purely. We're actually looking at providing some free activities for people the people who wouldn't otherwise be able to attend that sort of event. They'd be excluded through the affordability. If you went to a commercial Halloween trail, or if you went to a commercial pop thing, or a commercial fireworks show. So there's that side of things. You wouldn't want to lose totally and utterly, but in general terms, yes, it'd be good to see more obvious community engagement where people are willing to get involved.
And I think also, Councillor Mason, is one thing I was just thinking of while Colin was talking there is, for example, we have quite a few gazebos now. If someone wanted to put something on locally, that might be our only total help, if you like, or facilitation, to say, right, we've got a couple of gazebos you can have for a day or so. We'll even put them up for you. If that's the sort of thing, you start from small twigs, don't you?
Can I come back, Chair, just very briefly? What I was saying is, what potential is there for the council to be proactive in inviting? So, for example, for let's say World Mental Health Week, of inviting the local organisations to see whether they'll be interested in doing something. There are other. There are other groups. I mean, there's Pride. I'm not saying necessarily we should do any one of these, but there are a number of things that we events throughout the year, or special weeks, or literacy weeks, or whatever, where we could actually invite and just say, would you be interested in promote? You know, we will support you in promoting your week. There'll be a disability week. What I'm just trying to do is what opportunities are there to encourage community engagement? Some groups won't be interested, some might be, and then we can start to build more community engagement.
I think before Colin might come back, but my immediate thought is perhaps that's where the volunteer centre comes in, as that conduit between all these groups you've just mentioned, some of which they already know about, and the town council saying, these people want to do something. How can we facilitate it? There's also a capacity issue, of course, we have to think about, maybe a cost, but we have to be conscious of both of those. Look, do you want to come back and talk, Colin?
We do actually do a little bit of that, and it would be interesting to see if there's any other opportunities. So in terms of mental health, there was the day, I can't remember what the day was called, that Karen Chappell took the lead in organising for young people's mental health. That was a successful event. So we organised with Abbeycroft Leisure and a whole load of local groups, and those local groups then pitched up. So we were kind of the conductor, but they were the ones who were actually had all the tables and all the stalls, and there was lots of promotion. We had to sign up Saturday back at the end of, I think it was the middle of 21, when the volunteer centre led voluntary groups in the high street, recruiting people back to rejoin after the pandemic. And they've organised charity fairs. There's another one of those coming up. We have been involved in apprenticeships, fairs and things. So we do facilitate that sort of meeting. The difficulty always is actually getting enough people in. When we've done some of the work for schools, skills shows, etc., getting the schools to be able to book people to come down. They come down in their minibuses, etc. And also, of course, the sustainable market. I mean, Sarah will talk later about it. I don't want to steal her thunder too much, but one of those is on Earth Day, and there'll be community groups involved in promoting that. And obviously, because of what we talked about this year, kind of bee friendly stuff is one of the themes we want to try and get going as well. So we do it. I think it's always a challenge to be heard above everything else that goes on.
Okay. Is that okay, Joe? Councillor Mason? Sorry, you're muted.
I was just looking at the terms of reference and whether there was scope for having a D where possible to encourage other community organisations and offer some support. So
Yeah. No, put it. Yeah. Okay.
Perhaps the word with, Colin, rather than by, maybe encourage engagement with, yeah? Just, yeah. It's a two-way process.
And would D go in front of C?
If it matter, does it?
If you're doing it in sequential order, I'm thinking. Being pedantic.
Just on Joe's point, incidentally, I submitted the form for Nan to Suffolk's Green Agenda, and named, basically the members of Suffolk of the council, and she linked that in, and she's absolutely absolutely over the moon that you supported an application for her to be considered as an applicant for that. So that was, she was very, very, very pleased. That's won you quite a lot of brownie points, I think.
Sorry, could you just scroll up a bit, Colin? Sorry. That's right. That's right. Just making sure you said members of the public. That's okay. By the working party, that's fine. Sounds okay to me, other than that, as long as everyone else is happy. Do you want that proposed, Colin?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Can I have there for a proposer, please? Councillor Lucarini, followed quickly by Councillor Marks. All those in favour, please show. Put my hand in the screen. Lovely, thank you for that, Colin. Right, moving on to item 7, which is the list of proposed events for the year. Which Colin is about to put on screen.
I'm sure there's a clever way of doing a split screen, but I don't know how to do it. So, so thank you for putting that up again.
Okay. We're going to go through these one by one, or
No, I would have thought probably easiest to do that. Then we know we've actually covered them all.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the obvious one, the top one, which is the beer weekend. Are we going to have time to do something this year with what else is going on at the Arts Centre?
I see some shaking of heads. It depends what time of year you do it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, Councillor Brown has suggested like an Oktoberfest type thing. I can't comment because I don't drink any alcohol, so I can't be. I'm probably biased a little bit, but
you'd be great behind the bar because this beer is ghastly to drink, but you'd be very good serving it, John.
Right. Well, I might take you up on that. I'll see what happens.
It is grim.
Have we? But that's October, of course. Then we're getting into Halloween trail time as well.
There's no requirement to organise it if we don't want to
No.
organise it.
I'm just getting what comments are. Councillor Brown, go on.
Yeah, so the ones that I went to, were quite well attended. I thought they were, something a bit different in the town. I know people came from, a bit further afield to, come along. So I don't know. It's just one of those events. It's for a different sort of clientele than we normally appeal to.
I think the only problem I can foresee, and I'm sure Sarah and Gary are probably nod viciously, is that the Arts Centre is going to be shut from the building's not going to be available for this sort of thing from July to mid-September, I think it is. Which is probably when you want people to who are around.
Yeah, just remember the big ones in Bury in August.
That's right.
So don't clash with that, because that absolutely sucks people, and I will be working over that one. I'd quite like to work at this, so I'd be ashamed to clash, because I would, I like working at the other one. The atmosphere is supercharged and it goes down very well.
I suggest we. Sorry, Sarah, I can just see your hand up, and then Councillor Mason.
I was going to say that perhaps in the past, I think 3 days might be pushing it. And if it was to go to October, we could scale it down a little bit. It could be simplified, I think, if that was the way we wanted to go.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mason?
I was just going to chip in that National Beer Day is on June the 15th. But, so that's a slightly different time of year, but there you go.
I think as well, if I can say something.
Yeah, go.
I think if we are going to do a beer festival type event, whether it's Oktoberfest or some kind of similar notion, is the key to it, I think, is finding someone with the experience. Rather than taking it on board all ourselves, is that we bring in a partner. I'm not sure. Did we do it with Nethergate previously? Whether it's a brewery or whether it's a brewer or microbrewery, someone local. But yeah, I think the load should be shared, and I think there's probably a little bit of research or outreach work to kind of find that partner. So that would be my take on it.
Sorry, Gary, do you talk to Martin Bate from Camera?
I've never met him.
So Martin Bate Martin Bate is the kind of, Colin's going to say, I've worked with Martin and I worked together.
Yeah, we do work with Martin. He was involved in advising us on the first couple. And to be honest, in just, picking up from the spirit of what Councillor Mason was saying earlier about facilitation, I don't know why we need to get involved in actual running a beer festival when you've got people like Martin around, who's perfectly well organised one and has offered to do so. So I would have said we could provide the venue, and if some of our staff want to get involved, that's fantastic. But actually, Gary's right. Somebody else organises it.
Totally. I have to.
You should make a profit. After all, you should make a profit out of a beer festival.
We should do. Yeah. I'm going to declare a slight obtuse declaration here in the basis that I'm actually a founding shareholder of Camera.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, Martin
1970 something, about 1973, 4, something like that.
And I've worked at the beer festival ever since it started virtually.
Not that I've ever earned anything out of it. So,
I think that's a terrific proposal that, Colin said, let's get, Martin or whatever to, hopefully he can take it on. As long as the event's in Haverhill, it doesn't really matter if, we do it or not. And,
yeah, okay. Councillor Lucarini?
Yeah, I'm happy for Camera to organise it. A couple of other local breweries have at Nevergate before. You've also got Wild Sky Brewing in Linton and Rough Acre in Clare. So we've got 3 breweries surrounding us.
Yeah. Okay. Can we pass that over to officers then or somebody to talk to Martin and see if they're interested in doing anything this year? If not, we'll defer it till next year.
We'll do.
I can get in touch with Martin. I've got his email somewhere.
Lovely.
I've got his phone number if you want it, Sarah.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah.
I talk to Martin all the time, so
can you send it over, because it will be deep in my inbox somewhere.
Yeah. Or I can send you his phone number.
Thank you. Right, moving on to the second one, historic vehicle rally. Any answer from them at all, Colin?
No, we've not heard back from them at this stage. So obviously there'll be a similar issue in terms of time if they don't come back to us. But they had it on their website, but they've not responded to the inquiry we made to their website response form.
And it also clashes with the major exhibition as well, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't.
I'm talking about staffing, from a staffing point of view.
Well, I mean, it depends what date it is, doesn't it? I mean, nothing clashes with anything if you spread them out enough. It's just whether or not when we can do it and when they can do it happen to match. It's unfortunate that the local people, as far as I'm aware, don't have any involvement with this particular group anymore. So whether or not, what I can do is perhaps reach out to them separately and see if, because they're the ones with all the buses, and it might be that that's the more interesting side of things for people. And in terms of organising anything else around it, it may well be that there's a slight separation going on. So we'll have a little bit more of a poke around to see if we can. It'd be good to actually talk to somebody. I talked to them during the pandemic, and they had just really been. They were laid low by the pandemic, and as you can imagine, the age group of some of the people with these vehicles, they had lost a few members. So I don't know, what state that particular society is in at the moment.
Yeah, I think looking at the dates of when I filmed in 15, 16, 17, 18, it looks like the second Sunday in July is what they normally go for. Okay, fine. Nothing. Sorry, Sarah. Sorry, I saw you waving your hand again. Sorry.
I was going to say, do you think it would dilute Armed Forces Day if we sort of did a hybrid thing where you get the bus rides on Armed Forces Day? Or is that going to sort of dilute the meaning of Armed Forces Day. It just seems like if there's a vehicle rally going on in town anyway, it sort of links up to have something else vehically on the same day.
Yeah,
sorry, Tony. Yeah, to be fair, it's, you know, we're trying to be as inclusive as we can. If we can get some buses to come round on the thing as well with a load of people, that's all well and good, you know, get them down to the town as well. So I personally would say it's a good idea if you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Mason?
I was just trying to think of the cons of that. Of course, if you did hold it on one day as opposed to 2 separate days, you're reducing the amount of footfall that would be hitting the high street. And, you know, obviously, the more events that take place, the more the high street benefits. That's the only point I make.
Although the vehicle rally, of course, is in the car park behind the Arts Centre, and a lot of people don't necessarily go through to the high street. Most people turn up, you know, the rear. But anyway, excuse me. Okay, moving on to Big Day Out, Wednesday the 26th of July, which was part of a picnic. Haverhill in the park last year, but we're now separating it back out again. Now we got hopefully the ground available instead of the fun fair. Any thoughts on that at all? Budget of 9,000. Sarah?
It would be good, I think, to have some sort of theme for the day. I don't know what that theme is, but something to pull the whole lot together, because otherwise it's sort of a load of stalls on the recreation ground, and it's a bit like the Haverhill show. So it would be good if we could find a way to differentiate the 2 events now, but just something to make them distinct and separate in the public's view or mind's eye or whatever.
Yeah, and we've got the coronation in May, of course. And the King has mentioned about this volunteering Monday, but I don't know how he expects that to carry on. Is that a legacy hand, Joe? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, if someone can come up with a theme, might be your department, Sarah.
Okay, I'll have a think around themes.
That's a good delegation, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, if there's anything, I don't know whether there's anything historical or relevant or, yeah.
Well, I'll have a think and see
if I
just anything, and then
go on, Gary. Was it you, Gary?
What I was going to say was, you know, I think the Big Day Out, from my thoughts working it the last few years, is what is its main aim? What is the point of the day? Is it a day to bring the families out and give them something entertainment-wise? After all, it's called the Big Day Out. You know, I think the idea of having a theme is a good one, and the theme should give it the whole event a sense of direction. And I think the thing that I noted from the event is that it does lack a little bit of direction. And I think having a theme or having some kind of notion attached to it, I think would lift the whole thing. And obviously that needs a little bit of work on it. But I think from my perspective is it full on entertainment, or is it about bringing, I know the Haverhill show does a lot of good work in bringing community aspects together with fun things to do. The Big Day Out, I think, is it in some kind of, what is the direction that it wants to go in? What is its identity? And that would be my overriding question about this event.
I mean, none of these are set in stone, and we should be reviewing them all, whether or not. I mean, before I get on to Councillor Luccarini, my own personal view of it, looking back on over the years it's been running, it was supposed to be starting out, as I understood it, as some means of families and young people together, not only for the entertainment that might be put on, but also being able to find out information, being able to get together, and also volunteering, and that sort of stuff is, and that's why a lot of the stalls were community groups, from town and elsewhere, providing information. So, Councillor Luccarini?
Yeah, so my understanding always was that it was a chance for families with kind of younger children to be able to come out in the summer holidays to have free events. But then alongside that, there are some community stalls that are targeting that profile of people. In terms of the theme, I'd just be wary that we don't end up creating a theme that actually restricts the event, because if it is about just having a day of fun where, you know, there's trampolines, an obstacle course, you know, I can remember things like thinking back to when I used to go to them, you know, Abbeycroft were there with their exercise machines for kids to have a go on. I can remember a stall that put the UV stuff on your hands, you know, you're teaching kids to wash their hands properly. It was a collection of all of quite random, but the stuff just to keep kids entertained and kind of help them learn. And so I wouldn't want to restrict the event too much.
Yeah, I mean, my own personal thing in all cases is we need value for money as well. You know, if we can get that sort of information and the entertainment for less money, but equally provide the best service we can, that's brilliant. Well, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, to be fair, yeah, we're having a Haverhill show. What about if we combined the two, put some money into the Haverhill show for them to put some of the stuff on that we do for the big day out, and just merge it into one day, because it seems, you know, they're pretty similar events, and you know, the Haverhill show now is a larger event, and maybe we could use some of the money for the big day out to put some extra stuff on the Haverhill show and make it a better show and save some money, etc. Don't know.
I was going to ask you, Councillor Mason, and I can't remember what date your Haverhill show is. You did tell us, but go on. Yeah, go ahead anyway. You're muted, by the way.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to make it clear for anybody watching, and of course for the purposes of this meeting, that I need to declare an interest, of course, non-pecuniary, as chairman of the Haverhill show. And so in this discussion, I kind of wear two hats, although I'm very much part of it, you know, want to be very much part of this committee. But I just want to make it clear for anyone watching regarding my role within the Haverhill show.
Can you just remind us what date the show is, the Haverhill show, Joe?
2nd of July, first Sunday of July.
Yeah, okay, so it's about 3 weeks before, Councillor Brown. This is actually designed for people who are on the summer holidays, would have started. And also not only that, but it's also geared around staffing availability from the town council as well, being midweek and everything else like that. Colin, you're going to say something?
Yeah, just for clarity, under the new code, it would be in other registrable interest, but we're not discussing the Haverhill show. So I think you're on safe ground, Councillor Mason. I suppose that I don't know whether it is a problem that it's difficult to tell the difference sometimes between the Haverhill show and the big day out, in terms of when, if you boiled it down to a sentence each, they might well sound very, very similar indeed. They're different events when you're standing on the field looking. The Haverhill show is a big, big event compared to the big day out. It's far bigger. So, I mean, I'm not sure what we could add. I'm sure, you know, we provide extra resources, and I'm sure they're very grateful for the extra pairs of hands that we're able to provide. But there is a lot of similarity in terms of, you will see voluntary organisations, I think, at the Haverhill show, you know, community groups, etc. You will see some of the kind of activities, the trampolining, etc., will appear at both. I don't think the general public actually care that there's two. They're very happy that there's two of them anyway. So I don't know that we need to necessarily worry about a differentiation, unless the Haverhill Show Committee is concerned in any way that the big day out is kind of trampling on their lawn. But obviously, yeah, that's down to them to say so. And we can make any adjustment as necessary.
That's from Mason again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sense that the big day out is trampling on what the Haverhill show does. I mean, in terms of a potential theme, and one that wouldn't necessarily be very limiting, Councillor Creaney, would be an emphasis on children, a children's day out. See, the Haverhill show is a real mix of things for lots of different ages. I mean, we've got the food village there, we've got arts and crafts, which, you know, there's stuff for adults there, but a day specifically focused for children, and an emphasis on children, because then what you could potentially do is invite clubs and organizations kind of like have a go, you know, whether it's the cycling club or rugby, or you know, it could be an activities focusing on I mean, some of the positive side things could be positive mental health by getting involved in sports and activities, but it could be Snobby Eddies, and they could have a stall for crafts, encouraging children to be making stuff, but something that is focused on children rather than necessarily the Haverhill show. We've got a car boot sale, we've, you know, there's lots of different things for different people, and I think if you were to target children and families, there's scope for doing something quite a lot different. But there you go.
I think that's probably what the big day out is. It is very much geared towards to young people. That's why we do it at school holidays. I think there is a separate distinction. Councillor Marks.
Yeah, did you know on the 3-day event there was a children's corner actually that was really, people were queuing up for that. So something along those lines, you know, on the 3-day park picnic in the park event that you did, that was really successful. People really enjoyed, the children really enjoyed, and having their space, I think, was really quite important, something for them, and it was quite near the music, so they could enjoy the music and be quite. So yeah, I think Joe, you're right, having something for children, and for parents' sake, it's actually really nice because they get a little bit of a break if the children are doing something enjoyable.
Yeah, we obviously have to think about cost-wise again. You know, it's not a brilliant year this year, of course. I personally think at the moment we should maybe put it on and just see how it goes this year. You know, we're in a different era post-COVID. Councillor Creaney?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think people are describing exactly what the big day out is about. It is for children. I don't think there's any clash between that and the Haverhill show. They are aimed at different people. Obviously, the big day out is midweek as well. The only thing I did wonder is whether there's any flexibility about pushing the date back. The 26th of July is pretty much at the very start of the summer holidays. I don't know whether that makes much sense, whether, you know, kids have just finished school and then we're already putting something on, whether it'd actually be nicer to push that further into the summer holidays when kids and families are probably getting bored and families are running out of money, maybe.
It's about fitting the capacity in, Councillor Creaney. So, effectively, one of the savings is that we hire a vehicle for just over a week, and you have the Wednesday the 26th, Friday the 28th, Tuesday the 1st, and Wednesday the 2nd. I think this was discussed at Leisure and Community those days, in actual fact.
Yeah. Well, are we happy to? Excuse me. Okay. Are we happy to just continue with Big Day Out? At least review it again, post event, see how it goes, maybe with a theme, as been said. As long as it doesn't restrict that, you know, we obviously we don't want people to say, well, I can't come because I don't know anything about that theme. Needs to be voiced now as well. Sorry.
Chair, if I can come back. I just want to emphasise the point again, maybe slightly differently. When I was saying focused on children, I mean, obviously it's focused on children, but if I take it from, let's say, Suzanne Stevenson, and, you know, and there was a reading corner, and it was all about Roald Dahl, and not necessarily just activities, but things that are creative and stimulating for children. It may well be we've got community organisations. It might be that primary schools, they may be willing to contribute in some way, even though the schools may have been finished. But knowing that the children are going to be doing something, what I'm trying to say is just something more creative than necessarily just trampolines and bouncy castles.
I think pre-COVID, certainly, that's exactly what Big Day Out used to do. We used to have all these things. Okay, we didn't have Get Stuff at Reading, obviously a relatively new thing, but certainly a lot of other creative stuff went on. I think probably we've spoken about this one long enough. Do we? Excuse me. Want some water. Are we happy to let this one run and see how it goes?
Yeah, we'll take that steer on particularly making sure we focus on children, etc. And we'll look for some of the educational stuff with like the UV lamp type stuff. And I don't think we've done all that kind of thing. We've probably sort of veered away from that, but that it's likely to be able to get lots of activity going for relatively low cost if we can find various health groups, etc., that are wanting to promote their particular messages, because they usually have, it's like Abbeycroft have bikes and stuff like that. So
yeah.
And equally, you've got people like Nan who will probably bring along seeds and flower. People could donate flower pots, and children could take home a flower in their pot to plant in their garden, because that would then also meet with our objective, the green objective. And kids love to do things like that they think are going to grow, don't they? So
definitely.
Okay, let's move on. Well, we'll go down the list. It's not quite in native order, but we're going to picnic in the park, 1st of August at East Ham Park.
Yeah, just the same again, really. We'll find some interesting activities for young people. This is aimed at young families, and it usually seems to go very well. It's a fairly straightforward event. I mean, Sarah's organises these.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah, so you got your hand up.
I see that, and I don't know, there's probably been a discussion beforehand that I don't know about, that it's on the first, Tuesday this year, whereas in the past we've always had it on a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's because of this van hire thing.
Okay.
Been having to have the van with that, and to keep taking the van, unloading it all the time and everything else like that. So we keep it secure location. And so if you look there, as Colin said, there is the 28th of July, obviously the 26th, the 28th, the 1st and the 2nd, or about basically a week of events with maybe a couple of days in between off.
Okay.
Yeah, and it also was to allow there to be a window of opportunity for staff with children to have holiday, because last time we didn't leave a gap, and then we found we were short staffed for the big Haverhill in the Park event.
I don't know, staff on holidays, God blimey. Right, okay. Yeah, picnic in the park is always very successful as far as I can see.
John.
So I'm happy to go with that. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I've never been along to one of those yet, unfortunately. Did it have things in there like, nature sort of stuff going on, like, woodland trust people and, things like that? Or is it just a picnic, that sort of thing?
No, I didn't do last year. I missed it. I was doing something else.
There's a mixture of activities. So last year, for example, Suzanne was there and Laura Miller-Jones was there, and they did like little woodland trails. And then there was some circus skills workshops and some sports, batting, sports skills workshops, and some performances as well. So it's a quite big mixture.
All right.
And obviously the Friends of East Ham Park are heavily involved as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. If we, I'm just going to skip for. Let's skip forward to the other two that week. which is the Clements Fun Day on the 28th and the Chalkstone on the 2nd of August. As mentioned earlier on, the Chalkstone one, perhaps even more so this year, is probably self-running, if you like, if that's is that an English term? I don't know. And Clements a little bit more. I think they're pretty good. Parkway one, that's been on the tables, Parkway, for at least 10 years that I can remember, but never happened. As I mentioned earlier on, it'd be lovely to do them on, Hanship Village and all those places. But again, it needs what Councillor Mason said earlier on about people coming along and saying, look, we can facilitate this if you help us. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, sometimes it's a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need an event like this to get people there and then sort of, josh them along to try and set up a community association or something like that. To be fair, I always feel that, the Parkway sort of gets a little bit left behind. That was the first of the big, London council estates in town. It never really had a proper, community centre or anything like that. It would be good to try, to somehow, if we could, have something up there, just as I say, as a pump primer or something like that. Sometimes you need to do things like that. It's a big chunk of the town as well.
Maybe what because all the other stuff that's going on this year, maybe what we ought to do is try and get a lot of this stuff out of the way, and then do a big push for people around the town. The town is growing all the time. Not only that, we got 2 big estates being built at the top of the hill now.
Yeah.
As was told today, there were, I think, the Persimmon site's now got 320 occupations. It's growing all the time.
Yeah, but so there is quite a lot of poverty, etc., up there as well.
Everywhere.
Chimswell links through there. To the Nuke Pond area, by a path, so it could attract.
And actually, then, of course, we got over the other side of the road.
Exactly.
Meadowlands and all around there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's up to the officers,
It's on capacity as well. Again.
Yeah.
We can reach out perhaps to St Felix, the church there, and see, because obviously that's a although obviously it's the church, but actually it's the kind of a focus for the community up there. Then I thought they probably must organise some church fetes and stuff like that in any case.
Yeah, maybe Father John can help out.
Yeah, and obviously there's the shops there, and put some posters in the shops. Just it'd be just interesting. Nothing may come of it or not. It may be the catalyst for something taken off there, which would be fantastic.
Okay, all right. Let's if we're happy with that, let's go with that. But skipping back a little bit, Haverhill in the Park, Friday the 18th to Sunday the 20th of August, with a budget of 35,000. We all know what happened last year. I thought it was a successful event. Any thoughts on that at all? I mean, we obviously don't know what's going to be organised in terms of performers and all that sort of stuff.
I think the only criticism, John, from last year, from some of the people who attended, was just the food outlets were maybe a little bit expensive for some people and perhaps limited on choice. But obviously people will only come if they think they're going to make money out of it. And but maybe we could extend it a little bit to a little.
There was just to let people know, there was a post event review which went over actually a couple of meetings where that was raised quite heavily about food outlets and things like that, and also if I remember rightly, starting to set up a day earlier. And I think Councillor Lucarini had your hand up.
I was just going to reiterate my previous comments about trying to find sponsorship for this event, to try and either add to our funds or help bring the cost of the council down a little bit.
The irony is that the people who had the burger, which sounded very expensive, all said they were absolutely superb and effectively worth the money. But obviously for some people, the money was just too much if they've got a family.
I think we're going to, I think we're also looking at, well, certainly I think the review looked at perhaps changing the layout a bit to facilitate things a bit. There's a whole list of items there. But generally, I mean, very early days. Councillor Brown, you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, just as an idea, what about asking Red Row or Persimmon if they would like to sponsor it? You know, they're making a lot of money out of the development in town. It'd be nice for one of them to possibly sponsor the event. It'd be worth approaching them, I would say. John, you've got good contacts with them.
Yeah, no, I can ask both of them. Something just came to mind that one of our staff said over the weekend when I was working with the Panto was, wouldn't it be great if we had a video wall so people could sit either side of the screen, which I know not cheap, so people could see the acts from outside the area as well as inside. And I said, well, there's a cost there, but if we can get someone maybe to sponsor something like that, that'd be really go down really well, I would have thought, because you could put all kinds of other things on between acts as well. Well, while you're setting up and pre-stuff, But I can talk to my contacts at Red Row and Persimmon. Well, we had a meeting with Persimmon today, actually, by coincidence.
The other one is Churchill will be starting their new development opposite the Rec soon, so there might be another one to approach.
Yeah, Churchill Retirement Homes, yeah. Well, it'd be worthwhile just asking the question. I mean, they may only turn around and say, well, we can give you the usual £1,000 as they do. £1,000 better than nothing.
If you tell them it's the premier event for the town and there's going to be 3 days, they might incentivise them.
They're very receptive. When I spoke to them about, for example, all the road naming stuff up there for the family history group had done, they had to go and get approval, but then they went with it. Hell for leather, as it were, and printed everything off, gave it to all the residents and everything. So they're quite community based.
Yeah.
Especially as we know them. It's not as if they're some obscure person we don't know. Okay. Let's sort something out on that. Anything else on Haverhill in the Park? At this stage, a bit early, but Sarah, Colin, Gary, I presume, has anything started on this at all? Gary?
Yeah, so I started the paperwork for everything that we did last year transplanted to this year that is on this list.
Okay.
So I've literally started the process, and we were discussing the processes earlier today about getting applications into West Suffolk. So my take on it is I'd rather that if everyone's happy that we really get started. For example, I think we didn't start Haverhill in the Park till April.
Yeah,
last year, looking back.
The guys did very well. Everyone did well.
And an incredible achievement, but it would be good this year to lay everything out, particularly as this year is going to be obviously exhibitions and all these outside events and everything else. I'm starting now. The paperwork is starting now, basically.
Could you put an application in for sunny weather about 22 degrees, please?
We'll see on that one.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Chair, I'm aware that Steve Marsh has also had a few bands penciled dates in, so that is done. But until the council agree the overall budget, then we can't actually start inking stuff in. But we'll immediately book all the. We've kind of penciled in all the recreation ground spaces already. But we'll confirm everything with them at the end of January.
Yeah, I did. I spoke to him at the weekend. I do get getting pestered. Can we go ahead? Can we go ahead? So not my decision. It has to go to full council. But yeah, I said as long as I recognise at least one of the bands, I don't mind. But then I'm not of that era.
Sarah has a hand up.
Sorry, Sarah. Yeah, sorry. I saw someone's hand going. Yeah.
It occurred to me that we could perhaps scale down some of the arts and crafts activities during Haverhill in the Park, because at the same time we will be having the exhibition, and might be a way of it would be duplicating effort. So I thought it might not be so good for Haverhill in the Park, but people could go to one and then go to the other.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have to double up on putting arts and crafts activities in.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I'm personally conscious of staffing as well. You know, you can't be in two places at once. Yeah, fine. Whatever you think, Sarah. Whatever you think you can get away with, yeah. Okay.
If I can just flag as well, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. Just flag as well that I have already started looking at provisionally seeing the staffing for the events, and having the added complication of the exhibition and the outside events is going to be a tough shout. I've already been told that a number of Haverhill Town Council staff are not available. So I'm just flagging here right now that staffing will be crucial, and the help of councillors and volunteers in delivering Haverhill in the Park will be absolutely crucial. So I'm just putting it down there that I've started to look at it, and it's going to be fun.
Okay, I'm sure. Yeah, you're looking at, well, I can't speak for others, but you can put my name down. Okay. Anybody else? Let's move on then. Where are we? Halloween Trail on to October. 19,000. Now, 19,000, that was the bill for last year. But was that the, I don't think that was the budget for last year, was it? Did we go over budget on that? Colin, can you remember?
We've gone over budget for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So this budget is actually what it would have cost if we did what we normally do.
Yeah.
The challenge, of course, is, well, don't do that then, and it's how we can do things differently.
Yeah.
Are we going back to East Town Park this year?
Well, I think it depends what we're going to do. The last few years, the Scout site has given us the opportunity to put on very elaborate Halloween things that take much longer than we can be given as a window at East Town Park. There's all sorts of helpful sorry, I'm getting a lot of cross feedbacks from somewhere. It would be good if we could organise something in terms of the time of day that we do events, etc. If we have a very late event, then what we were supposed to achieve at the Scout site, and it didn't happen, was we were supposed to shut the gates and come back in the morning and clear the site in daytime. But I don't quite know how come that it had been already organised in terms of vehicle hire, etc., that it all had to be done in one night, which was unfortunate, because it kind of undid the health and safety point of actually not having to work that late at night. So ticketing, the ability to tell people that your slot is at X amount of time, so we don't get thousands of people all turning up at once and causing an absolute nightmare for the residents around East Town Park, is useful. There's a lot less waiting. Some people, I mean, there was less tickets overall, but not hugely less tickets overall, but doing it at the Scout site. But people who couldn't get in knew before the day they couldn't get in, whereas at East Town Park, people are queuing to get in, and then at the appropriate moment when time's up, the people at the end of the queue, and this is a very long end, are all turned away. So there's arguments on both sides. I mean, if we could control East Town Park as well as we could control the Scout site, and we could give people times to arrive, then East Town Park would be absolutely fantastic. So I think officers are always going to say we can put on a better customer experience at the Scout site, but we can't put it on for as many people. But last time we did, I think the only reason we changed away from East Town Park was because at the very last minute they weren't able to accommodate us.
Yeah, I think the only thing that, if you look at that list there, it does worry. I still worries me that we have an event that goes on for what, 3 hours maybe, with a lot of preparation before and after, for 19,000 for less than, which is more than 50% of an event we put on for 3 days, with all the preparation and stuff, and potentially more people. And it does worry me about the amount of money that's being spent and the number of people who go around for such a short period of time.
It's about 3,000 people.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right.
But
equally, we get okay. The first year we had what did we have in the first year at Haverhill in the park?
We had more than that every day.
More than that every day. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I say per head.
It's the most expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does worry me about the amount of money. I appreciate it's popular and everything else. I don't have a personal view one way or the other either venue. I think the trouble with East Town Park particularly is if it certainly the pre-COVID one, which would be 2019, it got extremely big, and you had to carry a hell of a lot of gear from one end of the park to the other several times over the 2 or 3 days that we were setting up. Well, it wasn't even 2 or 3 days, was it? It was less than that because we couldn't put stuff out. What people think.
Sorry, can I just say something on Halloween?
Yeah, go on. And then I've got Councillor Lucrini.
I think my question would be to the committee to the party is, what do you want to get from the Halloween trail and the experience that it gives the people of Haverhill? From my perspective, it seems that it was kind of designed as a free primeval type event. Primeval being like a corporate commercial operation with very similar scares and trails, etc. So it is certainly well liked in the town, and almost everyone who attends has a positive experience. So my question back would be, what are you looking to get from this event? Are you looking? And I can only echo John's point about the spend per head for each person to have a 20-minute walk around. So ultimately, I would then take the question back. When did this event start? Why did it start? And is it required to go forward? I mean, not everything's written in stone forever. Maybe you could rejig the event and it becomes something else. But I don't know. I would just go back to, does the town need this event?
Okay, thank you, Gary. Councillor Lucrini?
Yeah, I've quite a bit to say. Just very quickly in response to Gary, I would say yes, we do need this event as a town. I've been enjoying this event since I was very young. It's been going for a huge number of years now. It's incredibly popular. I know it is short, but families love it. And I've got so many memories of going around the Halloween trail with my parents. I absolutely love the event. In terms of the cost, it needs scaling back. I think it's out of control, especially since we've moved to the Scout Ground. It's become more like a theatre production rather than the simplistic Halloween trail it used to be at the East Town Park. Watching this year, people make clay models on trees for several days. It just seemed excessive. It didn't really add anything to the event. When we first started in Halloween Trail then years ago, it was mainly people jumping out from behind trees. I can always remember there used to be like a lizard creature that used to crawl along the one of the bridges that went over the river. Used to be someone on stilts.
Mr. Slime, yeah, he was wonderful.
There was people on stilts. I think they're meant to be big spiders that kind of just walked over you. It was a lot more simplistic. There wasn't this big theatre production of building sets that I think cost a lot of money and take up a lot of time. So I'd like to see it scaled back to that. That's harder to do at the Scout Ground because I don't think the Scout Ground is naturally scary. It's especially since the Scouts have cut down a lot of the vegetation. It's just a big open field. So I would like to see it go back to East Town Park. If we do go back to East Town Park, is to make it smaller. It never used to be as big as it become in East Town Park. We could use a lot less of the park and still have a good trail that is naturally scary.
Okay. Anybody else on that?
I think I think that's a really good point that we're conversation we're having, because we're actually discussing what, where do you take it if you don't want to spend this amount of money on it, which is a lot of money, and they have been good events. But I think the conversation here is really good, i.e., taking it back to what actually the event is all about. And if the event is all about being scared, then potentially artistic wise, it then becomes what it was 10 years ago. Then that would kind of fit in with our agenda here. So maybe the event needs Occam's razor. It needs to be stripped back and brought back to its very basic principles of trying to scare people.
A lot of youngsters really enjoy it. If you strip it back to more simplistic times, in a way you're possibly risking reputational damage, because youngsters that went round the year before saying, well, to be fair, what's all this about? And with social media and all the stuff that youngsters see these days, the films, the special effects and all the rest of it, maybe we just moved, maybe the event just moved with the times. What would have been scary 10 years ago would just make youngsters laugh these days. I don't know. I mean, it's there's
I don't think there's a problem with, I would agree. The one that we had last year, it started off very good. Come the actual day when we were still building the the set, if you want to call it that, I had great difficulty understanding what it was all about when I went around it a couple of times. And that's not the fault of the people doing it or anything like that, or anybody here. I think it just got a little bit out of hand. And I think that 19,000, we need to just look at the cost. Is there a way that we can get it back down to something a bit more reasonable? And equally provide that service to the public. That's what people
realistically, why can't we charge £1 a ticket? £1 is nothing, really nothing. But if you've got 3,000 people going, that's £3,000, and £1 really is nothing. But the other thing it does, my experience is, if you give something for free, people apply for it and then don't necessarily use it, and they hang on to it and it gets wasted. If people pay something, however small, they do actually tend to value it more. And use it or sell it on, or but at least that would bring in a little bit of money, and it may actually just control a little bit. I mean, we can still even give away a number of free tickets to the more challenged families through the way that we normally give tickets to the pantomime. But I just think perhaps £1 a ticket is really nothing, and most families can afford that.
Sarah, could you? I wonder if it's possible. Not obviously right now. How many tickets we issued and how many people turned up based on the stats, don't you?
I will do. Yeah. Not.
Could you have a look at that and see what helpfully what Margaret just said about do people just get the tickets and don't bother turning up? Because we know we had a waiting list as well.
We did. I mean, I have to tell you, John, I was on the gate and I did let some people in that. I mean, like, I won't name any particularly, but some people had come with their families from London who lived locally. They brought their families down from London and were absolutely heartbroken when they got the gate. So there were some people that by negotiation and agreement we let in.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's not a true figure reflection.
No, I think
I would say probably 20 or so that we let in.
Yeah. My view is we need to look at the costs, and if we can get it down, that's great. A bit like what Sarah said earlier on about Haverhill Park. Councillor Queenie again.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to Tony, just on the kind of the scariness. It used to be scarier. When we was in East Ham Park, we used to have an escape route. Because some of it was petrifying, to be honest, as a child. Last year's event, I would have said, wasn't scary at all. It was like walking around a fairy tale. And it's the first year I actually heard people complain about the event, that they found it boring. Okay. I think simplistic's best. East Ham Park is naturally scary. It's dark. You used to get told to bring a torch. That whole atmosphere, and then all of a sudden, the year I was volunteering, I was stewarding with a werewolf that had a chain round her neck. She would just be behind a tree, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she'd come running across, and people were screaming. Simple works. Just on the ticketing. the ticketing this year was a disaster. That it felt like on Facebook that half of Haverhill had got tickets and then decided they no longer wanted them.
Yeah.
And the other half of Haverhill couldn't get tickets and were trying to secure them. I do personally, I think it's better if people can just turn up. But I think when tickets are on offer, so many people just seem to grab as many as they can without actually considering whether they really even want to go. That's unfortunate.
Because they're free.
Yeah.
That's the classic problem with giving things for free.
Before I get to you, Councillor Brown, Colin, one of the suggestions you had, I think, last year was about whether we could train scarers, if you like, using local, Amdram, Centre Stage or whoever. Because that's what they do with Scaresville over at Melford.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with Karen already about the potential for doing that, and if it's approved to go ahead, because obviously what Councillor Lucarini has said, we kind of already heard, then. We will see whether we can organise that. I would certainly agree that in terms of the simple thing of going around East Town Park, we know that actually the people who go round, it's most of what happens on Halloween Trail happens in their head. There's stuff on the ground which gives the impression that at the very least, and sometimes the fulfillment that there's something going to jump out at them. But to be perfectly honest, the way most people go around they've jumped at 100 shadows, and that's the nice thing about keeping the event simple, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the ticketing was around when the capacity issues up at the the Scout ground, which we use for the reasons of COVID, etc., to try and control it, etc. But I would say that the East Town Park is the better venue, as everyone said. It's naturally sort of scary of a night anyway. So you're halfway there. And if it does return to East Town Park, which I personally would like to see, I wouldn't like to see any ticketing at all, because it's, as people have identified, it's a pain, and you're either charging or you're not. A pound, you'll be seen to be charging, and what we're about as town council is, for these free events, they're free. I know it's a bit of a hassle and all the rest of it, but that's always been part of Halloween. The Halloween Trail, you get a big load of people turn up, and that's what it's about. So I personally would like to see it go back to how it was, and if we can get scary people at half the price, fantastic.
Logistically, we wouldn't be able to ticket at East Town Park anyway.
No, exactly.
All the different entrances, all the entrances about and everything,
Yeah.
Childhood. Okay, so we've got a couple of action items there, which would be great. Thank you very much. Conscious of the time, let's move on to Saturday, the 2nd of December now, and do both together, fireworks as well. Moving from the Friday night to the Saturday, which personally I think is a great solution. Get the Christmas market, the what's it called? Makers Market and all the other stuff, all the charity stores during the day, and then everyone trounces up, presumably around about 5 o'clock to the whatever time it gets darker on that day. Is that your idea, Colin? About the same sort of time?
Well, it's not my idea, actually. It was Councillor Lucarini's idea.
Thank you to him. Yeah, go on.
That's basically, obviously, we haven't tested the water to see what the charity stall holders will make of it, and we probably need to invite them early to get an idea that if they're available on the Saturday rather than on the Friday night. But the budget has been is in the annual budget as you see it. So we'll do what we can with it.
Okay, Sarah.
Is this going to be the night of the Christmas lights switch on as well?
That will be earlier, won't it?
I And would the switch on be like it was this year with an event attached to it? Would it literally be switching on the lights? Because that cost a little bit of money last year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't here, was I? I was doing something else. I can't remember what I was doing, but anyway. I personally don't have a view on the light switch on, and maybe that's where we need the business input. Does it really benefit them? You know, I think this year, 2022, a lot of the lights were sort of put on by accident anyway.
The lights are switched on a week beforehand because businesses want the benefit of the lights.
I know.
There were some issues with the timers, which was irritating. But in theory, it should have been that none of the market lights should have been on the market square. But they I don't quite know how, but they were left to come on, and there was no point. I discussed with the Christmas lights people, there was no point in switching them back off again. So what was done was done. So the only thing that was turned on was the tree. I haven't really thought about that aspect of it, Sarah, to be honest. It's something we can try and work out. I mean, how important is the Christmas light switch on? You know, taking the basic, going back to basic questions Gary posed earlier. Is, you know, do we actually need to have a Christmas light switch on event? It could be part of the Saturday, but does it matter if during the day the Christmas lights on the tree aren't on and they get switched on when it gets dark at 4 o'clock?
I don't know, but I think we joined two events together up this year, didn't we, for ease and admin purposes. So I've got no issue about putting them on again and having a little shindig around it, but it's just whether that's what we want to do.
What about I sort of suggested, you know, if sunset's at 10 to 4 on the 2nd of December, do you have a switch on? Let's say at 4 o'clock, or even 4:30. If you've got the staffing, I have to be conscious of staffing, and then say, right, we've got the fireworks straight afterwards at 5 or 5:30.
I think that's quite nice because it is a bit of an extravaganza, isn't it? Rather than in dribs and drabs.
No, can I just suggest something on that one?
Go on. Go ahead, Gary. Gary?
So I'm having a few. Sorry, my line is phasing in and out. What I was going to say about that is why the fireworks staffing worked well last year. We worked really hard to have the time to get everybody into place. Previously, when we've done this before, with a very short gap between an event on the square and a rush up to the recreation ground, is that it's very difficult to manage that site without having the staff in place. So the fireworks display that happened a few months ago worked, I thought, really well because we had ample time to get everyone into place. So I would be quite resistant to have two events put quite close together, as I wouldn't like us to rush up to the recreation ground to secure it without proper timing.
Yeah, you could push the fireworks back a little bit, so that wouldn't have to be at 5:30. That could be at 6, and then the switch on could be at 4:30, say, because it will be dark.
Yeah, as long as we have, as long as we have a correct amount of time, allowing us to be able to lock off the recreation ground, then I absolutely would be happy with that. As long as we had a situation a few years ago where we were racing up.
Yeah.
And it was a real challenge to get them off the site. And we worked really hard on this last year. The effort that we put in staffing-wise to do that, and it worked really well.
Okay. Well, I can see Councillor Luker in his hand. I think it's up to you guys, Gary, Sarah, and everybody else, to work out how much time you need between the switch on of the lights and the fireworks, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it might be, and then we could do the time. Yeah. I think you're breaking up a bit, Gary. Let me go to Councillor Creaney.
Yeah, just on the light switch on. If we did do a separate event, is there much cost to that? Because surely that could just be quite simplistic, couldn't it? The main cost would be staffing.
I think it's Sarah or Colin, one or two.
Well, I mean, if you're going to literally just have people come along and you're going to flick a switch, then I think you'll have hundreds, if not thousands, of very annoyed people. People will want some form of show around it to make it worthwhile coming out, because otherwise you're literally flicking a switch, and I mean they've made all the effort, and there's been a millisecond of entertainment. So we'd have to put something on. You'll then get all the stage hire, all the sound stuff, etc. So that I don't think you either do it properly or you don't do it, I would have said. And I think if you're going to have a light switch on event, then having it the same day so that we're using the resources earlier in the day and then through to the evening makes a lot more sense. But I do take on board what Gary said as well.
Yeah.
I think that's
Sarah, you mentioned. Sorry, just to mention, Sarah, you mentioned it was quite expensive. Do you know how expensive it was?
I wouldn't like to guess, but I can look it up.
No, okay.
It was the performers, and then there was the staffing and some sound.
Yeah.
But then it was all. There was the reindeer, and there was all sorts going on.
Yeah, I know the reindeer were quite expensive. Yeah.
If everything was all on one day,
yeah,
that would shave a few pennies off.
Yeah, but I probably should be on one day then, because I don't think there's any point spending a lot of money on the light switch on, given that the shops are all shut. So I'm not sure what benefit it actually brings to the town centre. I suppose the restaurants we've got in the town maybe. Yeah, just focus on the Christmas night.
Okay, so I think we're generally happy with the concept of one day. Is that right, Colin?
Well, Chair, I did wonder whether you wanted to spend just a few minutes, appreciate the time, but just a few minutes just debating the question of whether we do fireworks at all. Because I the whole question of why does Haverhill have its fireworks at Christmas is a challenge that's been said before. And I think it would be remiss for us not to at least think about that, no matter what the outcome is of that conversation.
I'd love to have that, because I personally am not a great fan of the fireworks. I know other people are, and I'm sure probably Councillor Creaney is, on that particular day. I mean, if we had it November 5th-ish, but then, of course, then we got the problem of, you don't want it a chargeable event, obviously. I'd love to look at it from ones I've been to, like Walthamstow was a classic one. I remember that was a ticketed event, or at least a chargeable event, because they've got, it's in their town hall, so it's all fenced off and everything. But, being able to put on things like, I don't know, jacket potato stalls and that sort of stuff, things that would come down. And I did look at the cost of drone fireworks, by the way. They're quite expensive. I hadn't realised how expensive they were, and the involvement of them as well. I don't know. I personally, I think, I don't know. I think there are a lot of money, and it's not that. It's just also the preparation. What Gary was saying about, all the fencing has got to be put up the whole day and taken down. We didn't finish till, I wasn't there for the actual fireworks. I got there straight afterwards. But we were working there for, I don't know, another 3 hours to pack up and everything else. By the time it was gone midnight, by the time we got home. And anyway, any thoughts, Councillor Creaney?
Yeah, I think it'd be a shame to see them go. I wouldn't be opposed to moving the date, but I think the only thing we need to consider is that we don't end up clashing with everyone else's fireworks. If we start doing them at the right time of year, lots of people go off to like Saffron Walden, Bury St Edmunds. We can end up putting on an event that's not terribly well supported. Whereas when we do it in December, no one else is doing anything like that. So we're the only ones. It's an attraction, it's a draw.
Okay, so Marks.
Yeah, I can tell you, it does put us on the map. We are it's well known. You know, we are renowned for the fire. I absolutely hate fireworks. I do volunteer to help on the night, but I hate them. But the other thing it does, of course, is it's themed to the pantomime, and that's quite good because it leads very neatly into our pantomime season. But the fact that it is away from everybody else's, I think that's an absolute selling point for it, really. But I quite like your idea, John, of hot potato stall, and you know, and that sort of thing. I think that would go down really, really well. Actually.
Yeah.
I think that's a super idea.
Yeah, I mean, it may not even work, but I prefer going towards a traditional sort of fire, you know, November 5th side of things. I understand, of course, other towns do it, but then equally, as you just, you know, Saffron Walden, Albury, and all the other, Linton used to be, I think there's Melford, Durham as well, all around about the same time. But does it matter? You know, do we want people leaving our town to go to somewhere else?
I think they go to quite a few of them, John. A lot of people will go to, if they're on different nights, they will go to different fireworks.
Yeah,
they love it. You know, some people are really quite pyrotechnic people. They absolutely love it.
It's just a cost of, to me, it's a cost of, well, 8,000 plus, because that's just the fireworks, 8,000. Of burning up a load of stuff in the sky. But anyway,
I get that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you know, the amount of people that actually come along and really appreciate the fireworks. I think if we did have it on November the 5th, we'd have equally as many people there, because why jump in your car and drive to Bury or wherever when you've got a spectacular firework display on your own, which you can walk to with your family. So, you know, I prefer, you know, I would like to see them on November the 5th or around that time. So, yeah, that's my point anyway.
And I have to say, I haven't seen the Bury ones, I mean, the ones we what they call it, is it Alchemy? The one they do downtown is very good. I did video it this year, and it, you know, it looked really good.
I think, to be fair, it saves families a lot of money. If, you know, if they've got to go to Long Melford and pay to get in there or wherever, you know, if we're putting it on for free, you know, in the town, and it's around November the 5th, you know, we move the fireworks to, you know, more, yeah, of an all time of the year, and potentially save families money. Yeah, so.
All right, Councillor Luccarini.
Just a kind of couple of questions for everyone, really. Is if we do move them to November, do we kill the Christmas night event? And then I suppose what is almost the point of the fireworks? Are we just doing fireworks because we want to do fireworks for people, or are the fireworks meant to help bring people into our town centre, you know, around Christmas time? And are our fireworks also a tourist attraction? Are they helping bring people from outside of the town into Haverhill shopping in our town, using our restaurants, things like that? Whereas if we do it at the same time as everyone else, we'll lose that, because obviously, you know, people that live in Saffron Walden and they've got fireworks on the same night won't be coming into Haverhill. Whereas at the moment, we might be drawing people in to use our town and help our businesses.
Chair, if I could add just to kind of contextualise it, up until recently I was a licensed pyrotechnist and was firing fireworks professionally for the last 30 or 40 years. Yes, we could move it. As has been mentioned, we would then be in competition with other displays. Some of those displays are raising money for charity, so that if we diverted people away from those, potentially they would generate less money for charity. Secondly, the ticket money doesn't just go to charity, it also buys the fireworks, and most of those displays spend significantly more money, and it's a much longer display. So in terms of the fact ours would be free, would be a draw for those people who are unable to get to other towns or get to other events. I don't know whether the rugby club do fireworks anymore, but there was a concern that we might take away from local events. And the other consideration we'd have on cost is one of the reasons we get such a good display in December is because the pyrotechnics wouldn't be doing anything else. They wouldn't have any shows. But you wave £8,000 under the nose of a pyrotechnic company on around November the 5th, and you won't get anybody, because they're all going to be delivering £20,000 and £30,000 displays. They're not going to be able to provide an £8,000 display.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a great fan of them, so I don't think they draw people into the town. There's people in the town initially, but there's a hell of a lot more people turn up for the fireworks than are ever in the town at the point of, you know, just before the thing starts. People come down full of fireworks, and of course, I've seen it. We've all seen it. When as soon as the thing's over, the town dies. You know, unless you've got the fun fair or anything like that in the town. It just died. I don't think it. Sorry, Joe. I don't think it did particularly last year, because we had it much earlier. From what I saw and what people reported back was that actually a lot of the places were busy because people came into town to get takeaways, etc., before going home. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. In terms of takeaways, but obviously yes. But okay, you know, they are businesses, but it's a lot of money to spend to support a few takeaways in town. I'd much rather see, you know, if you're going to do it, it's a shame that fireworks are not visible during the day, because I stay happy during the day, but, you know, that's, you know, it's one of those things, unfortunately.
Colin, just explain, when you said you were a pyrotechnic, what does that mean exactly?
I think it's an arsonist and I don't know.
So I work for a company called Fantastic Fireworks, which is based just outside of Luton, and so we put on displays. So we put on the kind of the council displays in Leeds, Liverpool, around the country. So but it was, and I have to say, firing other people's money up into the air is great fun. I think when it's your own money, you need to be careful what you're going to do with it. I think if we're going to do one at all, I would leave it exactly where it is for all the reasons that councillors have said. I think it's a choice is whether we pocket £8,000 this year and help the budget a little bit, because obviously that'll come off the precept. It won't make a particularly appreciable difference, but it will make about a 1/3% off. But if we think that actually people really aren't going to fuss over 1/3%, then leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, was that you, Tony?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, for 1/3% and the amount of people that turn up, you know, to watch the fireworks, I personally would like to see them stay. You ask the residents, you know, the events that the town council puts on, that would be in the top 3 events that that will come straight off the tip of their tongue. But one thing, what about if we keep the if we open the kiosk up? You know, maybe we'll make some money on that for a couple of hours or something like that.
It was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, we made a couple of £100 on that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And also, you know as well as I do, Tone, that, you know, it's like the donation buckets. You know, one year when we walked along the crowd line, if you want to call it that, we got a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
To people, you know, when you put 50p and 10p, whatever the figure is, there, and that's before the fireworks were done. But then my biggest bugbear is those peddlers who turn up and
I agree with that.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So we'll go with it. This subject to budget and everything. Plan for that and worry about it. We'll have a review at the end of the year, mate. After the election, and after the event, maybe. Okay. Any other things on all those items? No. Okay. Let's move quickly on. Item 8A. Next meeting Monday, 17th of April, 7 o'clock online. By Zoom, assuming everyone's happy with 7 o'clock at night. Any thought? I mean, probably Councillor Creaney, you work during the day.
For me, it works best. Yeah, in fact, I work during the day, but
Does for me. Obviously, well, it doesn't bother for me either way. But no officers happy with that? Gary?
Well, whenever you wanted to be, obviously, from our point of view, I expect we'd prefer 9 till 5, but we wouldn't have got a job working at council if you just wanted to work 9 till 5.
No, I know the feeling. Okay.
Chair, I mean, obviously, I'd like to be able to attend, but as a teacher, I'm kind of
so
restricted.
you're after. I was about to say after 2 o'clock, Joe, but I better say after 4. Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. Yeah, so let's still go for 7 o'clock after dinner and everything else.